This is your official invitation to the Social Mansion. Compete with 5 other influencers in brand building competitions. Only one person can leave here. A winner.
Well, that puts new meaning to winner take all, doesn't it? Hello and welcome to another episode of the Forever Fangirls podcast. I am Sheila Amato, and along with my wife, Kimberly, we're your hosts, and we're glad you can join us.
Yes, and as you heard from the trailer, we're going to be reviewing Clickbait, Unfollowed.
This film was dropped on June 7th, 2024 on Tubi. Now, our standard spoiler alert is in effect here as we will be talking about specific plot points and themes. So if you haven't seen Clickbait, Unfollowed yet, you will be spoiled.
So before we jump into the discussion, giving you a little bit of background of things as always, but it's on Tubi, or not to be. I had to do it. I'm sorry.
Oh my
I had
God,
to.
really?
I know it's such a bad joke. But
talk about dad jokes.
I know, right? But who is Tubi, or what is Tubi, right? Basically, it is a free ad-supported streamer. And it's got a ton of original content.
Yeah, and I do know that they have been advertising all over the place. The most recent, we were in Times Square, staying in the city for a little bit, and they had lots of ads on billboards.
And the thing is, I had heard of Tubi back in the day, but you didn't really talk about it because it was just a free streamer, and I didn't know they had content that I'd be interested in. And now looking at things, and after seeing this, it's got a lot of stuff that I'm intrigued about, and it's free for me. It's ad supported.
Yeah. And you said that they actually, in May, hit a really big milestone that surpassed all the other streamers.
For viewership,
For viewership, like Disney Plus, you said.
Yep, it's doing really well. And if you don't check it out, this is where the movie is. So you might want to consider it.
Yeah.
That being said, Clickbait Unfollowed is from the minds of Melanie Scrofano and Catherine Burrell from Winona Earp. And they not only co-wrote it, but they co-directed it.
And they also played sister characters in it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put a record scratch in that because there's a positive from that I have to mention.
Okay.
And it's really an only 90-minute film, but it's a fun 90 minutes. I'm just going to say that.
Yep.
And the emergency is that Tubi is bringing back Winona Earp.
That's not an emergency.
It's an emergency because I don't know when it airs.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, yes, Tubi is bringing back a Winona Earp film. It's called Vengeance.
Do you think it's going to be about Eve?
I don't know.
I don't know anything.
That's not the topic of this podcast. But anyway, bringing it back. Speaking of Winona Earp, also wanted to mention this trivia tidbit that Emily Andress, the showrunner of Winona Earp, actually served as a creative consultant on Clickbait.
Really?
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
Yes. So I'm like, oh, okay. Now it actually makes sense because I thought, well, let's save that for the discussion.
So then just jumping into said discussion, starting off with the official synopsis from IMDb, a group of influencers are invited to a house for a competition. Later, only do they realize the deadly consequences of the competition. Dun, dun, dun.
So anyway, there are a total of 5 influencers, but one is a kid, Parker. So his mom, Julie, accompanies him to the Social Mansion. At the start, there are actually 6 people at the mansion. So the rules of the game are simple. Whoever has the least number of followers after a challenge will be out of the game. If they win, they get $1 per every new follower when they leave the mansion. But before they can play, they have to sign an agreement. All but one player, Peach, is suspicious of this game and didn't want to sign the agreement. Now, one of the other players, Gaia, signed for him. So naturally, no one read the agreement, and so they didn't realize that once they are out, they lose their lives. After all the challenges are completed, Peach ends up winning the game. However, there is a twist. Parker, whom everybody including his own mom, thought that he died earlier that evening, was kept alive. And Peach, as the victor, had to decide whether Parker would live or he would go in Parker's place and sacrifice himself. So the masterminds of the game, Shaylin and Sophia, show Peach his signed contract, and since he didn't sign it, Sophia couldn't go through with killing him. A struggle between Shaylin and Sophia ensues, and they both fall into the pool. They are electrocuted in place of Peach, and Peach and Parker then get to walk away together. And as they do that, there is a box in the driveway waiting for Parker to unbox. Peach looks inside on Parker's behalf, and we see the severed head of Julie with a note that says, "Social media is a nightmare." They leave the box, and Parker goes off to live with his aunt on a dairy farm away from social media. So that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I just have a little tidbit. After this film, I got an email about updated terms and conditions for this podcast being on one of the streamers, right?
Did you read it through?
I read the whole thing. And it's so silly, but it's so true.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're signing away. But jumping right into, the good, because there's a lot to unpack in what is presented as a campy horror film.
Yeah.
And it does succeed as a campy horror film, but as anybody knows, the underlying themes and everything else is kind of what we really dig into. But just skimming the top of the good, Melanie Scrofano, Shaylin, and Catherine Burrell Sophia, who's unrecognizable in all those prosthetics, their fight scene... Their fight scenes are funny, no, but the whole thing, their discussion back and forth when Gaia actually recognizes the voice of Sophia and then goes, "Wait, those turtlenecks, she had a channel. I know who she is." And then asks about where the sister is. And then she cuts the feed off, and their discussion, their banter back and forth.
Yeah.
I love their banter back and forth. And
it's similar to how they were really, their characters on Winona Earp.
Yeah, but it also, I think, has to come from a deeper connection of their friendship. There's a chemistry between the two of them, and I'd love to see them do more films together. It reminded me of the panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and they had Mel and Kat, and they asked a question about the Way Hot wedding.
Okay.
So Kat was just going, "Oh, it would be nice. It would be small, maybe family, maybe on the homestead." And then Mel's like, "Why would it be on the homestead?" And Kat's like, "Well, it's my wedding." She's like, "Yeah, but my father died there." And he's like, "My sister." And he's like, "It's going to be my wife." And the banter back and forth was so...
natural.
Yeah. And it was just so, not malicious. It was just fun. And seeing that again here...
it shines through.
It does. And it just shows how wonderful these two individuals are. And that comes across on screen beyond what good chemistry they have as actors. Their friendship oozes through in buckets.
Yeah. And it's really great to see. I mean, I did recognize Kat Burrell's voice, right?
I have to admit, I knew who she was playing because I had been spoiled.
Okay, well, I did not.
I know, and that's why I tried not to spoil you. You have to admit I was good there.
You were very good there. And so when she finally appeared on screen, I had a visceral reaction like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is that?
I think that's the point though, right?
Yes, yeah. That what you're faced with can be very, very different than what you had in your head. It really did capture, the essence of social media, right? Because there could be a different facade. And then when you finally get to know the real person or know the truth behind it, then it's like totally different from
It
what
could
it is.
be, yeah. I guess it's the idea of your eyes can deceive you. Just like whatever you read on the internet, you really should Google and see about the backstory and the history of it because fake news is everywhere.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point, but going to the channels being different, whoever has the least amount of followers is killed in the manner similar to their channel. So in the case of Gaia, she used her menstrual blood
To feed
feed the plants. So when she passes away, they shoved IV type things into her to feed the plants.
To drain her blood, yes.
Who was the first guy? Kyle?
Yeah.
And he was the fitness dude.
Yeah, who really wasn't fit, right? He didn't do cardio.
He doesn't do cardio.
He doesn't do cardio, but in one of the scenes, right, he was pumping weights and his tagline was something like, if you don't feel the burn, you're not really winning or something to that effect. And he couldn't do as many reps as he was telling his followers to do. And so, as soon as he felt the burn, he quit. So it's like, okay, dude.
They're all kind of unique and funny, but we don't get to see Julie. Julie happens off screen, and
we will talk about.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, because there was something I want to bring up with that I just now clicked into my head.
I also have a very poignant point about that. So.
Okay, good. So moving on to the horror tropes are here, the stereotypes, it can't be movie, the life lessons buried underneath it. The film, I think what I can say as a summary overall, it doesn't seem to take itself too seriously, but yet you are learning something that you don't know or hadn't really thought of, or you're aware of, but it's not something you talk about. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really does, in my opinion, click all the boxes.
Yeah. And I think the reason why it works is because it is a campy horror film, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you mentioned another thing where Shaylin's eyes actually opened at the end.
In the pool.
In the pool, right? And that it looked like the reflection of the social media ring.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if it was crane shot or whatever, they zoomed in on her eye. And it was a great way to end, because earlier, Sophia and Shaylin are fighting. And it comes out that the two of them believe that the influencers are doing this to themselves. They sign the terms and conditions. They are basically the reason they're dying. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with the fact that the two ladies put them in this impossible scenario. It is on the influencers. It's their fault, which is a very interesting point in and of itself. But the fact that at the very end, the eye opens up and the light is there, I kind of think, is there going to be a sequel? Because there could be. Because if that same premise of it's not me, it's them held true for Shaylin, if Shaylin survives this with a damaged face, constantly reminded of the torment that Peach did, because Peach pulled the lever, it's not me, it wasn't my fault that I'm in the pool, it was Peach's fault, it was the influencer's fault. I'm curious how bad the second terms and conditions would be, or how bad the second mansion would be.
I would think that there's no mansion, there's no, second terms and conditions. She's just going to go hog wild. For me, it looked like, so it wasn't like a perfect circle. It was like a starburst.
Yeah,
almost,
like a sun
right?
flare almost.
Yes. So to me, I took a different interpretation of that, where it looked like a zombie eye. And so it was symbolizing, to me anyway, that whatever you post on social media never really dies or goes away. That basically once you enter that, it's imprinted on social media DNA or whatever, or your DNA for that matter, and it follows you.
If you don't mind me taking that a step further, the trauma inflicted on Peach and Parker, even though they sort of kept Parker out of it because he's a kid, that is forever too. It's imprinted in their DNA.
Correct.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah. So still very, very interesting. And I did wonder after you said it, like, I wonder if they are going to do a sequel, but I don't know how that would come about.
If you think about it, like taking your point that social media is forever, if the videos are still up there, or if their channels are still up there, or if the video they were compiling of all the deaths to then release, all of that can find fans, and that could lead to copycats. Because we don't know what anybody can do or will do. Whereas like at the end of a regular horror film, the same person's going to come back and the same person's going to do the same track. We don't know if it's going to be Shaylin. Right. We don't know if it's even going to come back. We don't know if Peach turns into that person.
Right. And we also don't know what new technologies come about that can change things. So,
we don't know if somebody can recreate Shaylin and Sophia with AI.
Oh my God. Okay.
I'm going down a rabbit hole. Wow, that was a jinx.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So let's go into themes, shall we?
Yes. Fakeness. Fake. Did I mention fakeness?
Yeah.
Fake. Just because you see people like you mentioned online or in a video doesn't mean you really know who they are. You don't know what they're going through.
Right.
In the case of Gaia, she had mentioned she wanted to get out of the rat race. She couldn't stand it. Parker didn't want to be an influencer. He was 14, not 10.
Right. And his mom was living off his popularity.
But everything appeared scripted to the point of where people were saying, oh, but you know what? I don't know what to do on the fly. Everything really is scripted, which is true. I mean, even our podcast, we do have outlines and points that we want to hit. So everything is scripted.
Well, yeah, so that we know where to go. It's like a roadmap,
Yeah.
right? I think the difference here in the film itself is that they were using that fakeness to gain more followers so that they can enrich themselves and be more popular. I mean, in the case of Julie and Parker, right? Parker didn't know this, but apparently Julie bought subscribers. That's part of the reason why they were invited to join the mansion in the first place, because they had over 300,000 followers. So it's like, again, nothing is as it seems. And you have to take everything with a grain of salt.
Terms and conditions, she's called out on that because in the terms and conditions it says, no, you could not have any bot followers. But people just assume it's they don't read it, and people just assume it's no big deal. I get it. But continuing, each, like we mentioned, each influencer is a stereotype. You know, the most on the nose for me is Sophia. She literally is a mask of her former self.
Yeah. I mean, that is really like, in case you missed it, here you go.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's kind of in your face. But that ending line, though, skipping slightly ahead, after each demise, or right before each demise, Sophia goes, "You still matter, just not enough."
Yeah. And then she goes, clip.
Yeah, and then it's just, you're dispatched. It's kind of a dig on the followers, I believe, not being as massive and, not having enough of those wanting to be more popular, more valuable. But it's also kind of a very powerful line in the social media landscape. You still matter. You still have 100,000, 200,000 followers. But you know what? Just not enough, because this person has like 300,000. And it's that comparison between account numbers. And I think it was Teddy Roosevelt who said comparison is the thief of joy. So people are looking at numbers. You matter, just not enough. Because if I had just a little bit more, maybe I could have more, connection to people, and I could eventually get more ad revenue and maybe different sponsors and whatever, and I could make more money. If I just had more people, maybe they would like me more. It's a powerful, poignant, also sad line.
Yeah, because it's not always the fact that you have more followers that give you that meaning in your life.
Yeah.
And so that was my takeaway from that. I'm like, social media, yes, it's a tool. It can help, just like what you were saying, it can help you get to the next level, but it is not the be-all and end-all.
No, and social media can be an excellent thing. Like you said, it can be a tool in the sense of like during COVID, where it connected people across the world so that they don't feel alone. However, going on the other side, there's also internet addiction and value from outsiders, which is an important theme, I think. And if you think about it, the movie really does make it clear that influencers, at least the people they had, they put their personal value, so the validity of who they are as a human being, on the comments, likes, and follower count.
Yeah.
I mean, Peach even shares a story about his father taking them away for a trip. I don't remember if it was camping or whatever, and forcing him to leave his phone. And when he came home, a shooting had occurred, and he didn't comment. And because he didn't comment, people were attacking him in his comments that he didn't respond to it.
Right.
So he has never not had his phone on him. And I think it was Amy, who goes by Mimi, I think. She even said that her comments, likes, and positive reinforcement fills the brokenness inside of her.
Right. And to a certain extent, I think that's okay. But if it's like I was mentioning earlier, if it's the be-all and end-all of everything, that's also not good. Because that does feed into what you had just mentioned, which is, the addictive part of it, right? Too much of a good thing is not good.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about this honestly, the ladies gave them a way to leave. They could have walked away with their lives.
If they deleted their accounts.
All they had to do was delete their accounts. But they placed so much high value on the outside and thinking of what they built and everything else. I'm sorry, Sheila. I love you. I do. I love our lives breathing more than the podcast and the website. We can start again. It would stink horribly, but we can start again. it would take a lot of time, and I would miss the listeners that we have, and it would take a lot of time to try to find them again. But our lives are more important. But Axel watched Kyle die. And to walk out the door, he would rather die himself than lose his account.
Yeah. And he's not a character that I actually
No, I didn't like him at all.
I mean, he was just sleazy because he was always after what could benefit him.
Yes. But it was just, and then Peach even says, like, we have a choice when Sophia asks if they're up for the next challenge. But you did have a choice. They literally have the tablets in front of you. You have a choice. It's not an ideal choice, but it's a choice.
Right.
You had a choice to come to the mansion. You had a choice to accept the invite. You had a choice to sign the terms and conditions, which we'll get to in a minute in regards to Peach. Well, actually, you had mentioned it. Gaia signs it for Peach. But you have a choice. You don't have to like your choices because you're not guaranteed. And I think that's one thing that the film really hones in on. You aren't guaranteed great options in life.
No. And I think the reason why they kept honing in on the contract, and, part of the reason why Sophia and Shaylin did this is because they themselves lost, their own social media platform because they did sign away their rights. And I think
without reading the fine print.
Without reading the fine print. And I think that is very important because most of these companies have high mucky-muck lawyers who write these contracts because it is more beneficial for the firm when you do that, right? That's just fact. And so unless you negotiate or at least have your own lawyer, I know they're expensive, but have someone else read it to try to understand what it is that you're signing up for, because it could be something that will ruin your life at the very worst of it. But hopefully there's something good in it for you. So just know where you are. One final point about the contract, though. In the end, the reason why Peach actually is able to escape is because Sophia couldn't kill him because Peach, did not sign the contract. She was a stickler to it. Since Peach did not agree to any of the terms and conditions, she couldn't then move forward with it. Shaylin couldn't care less. They're like, no, kill him, because he's already seen so much. But that point of really read the contract and make sure that you know what you're getting into.
But she also had been screwed. If she's not a stickler, that makes her hypocritical.
Yeah.
And it makes her fake.
Yeah.
But just going back to the internet as an addiction section, do you remember when Peach and Parker were leaving? Parker was talking about going to his aunt's house with dial-up. Peach mentioned, oh my God, that sounds heavenly because they don't want to get online. He's going to stay away from social media for a while. And then Parker mentions, why? You probably have millions of followers right now. And Peach hesitates.
Yeah.
That pull is very strong. And I think, in my opinion, I think Peach goes back.
He probably will. But sometimes a break is actually a good thing. So hopefully he has enough of a break that he'll be able to have a better balance, maybe.
And see, for me, I thought if the video leaks, people are going to find the bodies at this mansion. I mean, it's not going to go unfound or, ignored.
Well,
he
in the
might
middle of
capitalize.
nowhere, though.
Yeah, but he could capitalize on the trauma and the event.
Possibly.
So that's I kind of went to, what is he going to do? He's pondering that, but also pondering I need a break because this was a horrible experience. So it was a very interesting way to end it.
Yeah. I mean, because he didn't sign the contract, he didn't get the prize of, $1 for new followers. So he ended up with about 600,000 followers. So that's 300,000 more. So he's out the $300,000 because he didn't sign the contract.
Yes, but if he can sign his rights to a movie or sign his rights to a book.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The allure, and especially since that directly relates back to when he said, I didn't make a comment on a shooting previously. Yeah. Well, now maybe he's looking at this going, but I'm part of it. What are my followers going to think? It was just a very interesting bookend to his story, which is why I think a sequel could be done where Shaylin is hunting down Peach.
And Parker, probably.
I think Parker's innocent in this.
And that's true. I don't think he signed it. I think
he did. His mom signed it.
Yep.
So, going into the bad.
Yeah.
All right. For me, and it kind of clicked in my head and kind of made sense, but killing Julie off screen. I mean, you then see the severed head later for the box for Parker because just in case anybody doesn't know, Parker does unboxing videos. So that's why it was there. And I guess it was their way of warning. But if he was the winner, would the box have been found outside? Like, how would we have known? It was one of those things where it wasn't a definitive answer.
I mean, I think that it was there regardless, so that if he was the eventual winner, right, and Peach actually sacrificed himself so that Parker could live, then Parker would have seen it.
But then why do that when the entire time they're keeping him away from the horrors of the house?
Because the point is social media will still follow you, right? The message in the box, social media is a nightmare. He will have that nightmare no matter what, even though he was technically innocent.
I guess my point here is, although I understand a bit of it, even when they shot Amy because she was breaking the terms and conditions / NDA, everything kind of was done outside of Parker's view. He was in this little room playing soccer. Mm-hmm. So he was completely isolated. He doesn't know what's happened. He doesn't know the torment. Social media might follow him all over. But every single step of the way, they've kept him free and clear. So the head in the box at the end doesn't do that.
Didn't he see Kyle's murder?
I don't believe so. I believe his mother pushed him away or whatever. Or he was not there. I don't remember seeing him.
Okay.
But it was just an interesting thing that they kept him away from everything. And then all of the sudden, they're going to do that and possibly cause such trauma that he never gets over it.
Yes.
It seemed out of character. It seemed out of storyline for me. That was the one little misstep I had.
And for me, I see why it is, because social media is just prevalent.
But I think it was too harsh. Maybe that was it. They didn't need to make it that harsh.
Okay. I mean, Peach was going to explain, because he didn't know what happened to his mom, right? He was going to explain later. So, yeah, it's the fact that, all right, kid, you're gonna have to deal with this harshness. The point that I wanted to bring back about this is that you were mentioning that we didn't see how Julie died, and I think that was actually quite poignant and appropriate because she was the one behind the camera.
Yeah,
right?
It hit me when I was talking about it.
Yeah. She was behind the camera, and Parker was always in front, and she was the manipulator telling Parker, do this, do that, do the other thing.
She was the brains of the operation.
Yes.
Ergo taking her head.
And so she had to be killed off camera because at the end, her death didn't matter that much.
See, here's the thing. I go back to Parker unboxing the head because I get it. It follows the train, but you're not killing Parker. Parker isn't innocent in all of this. He didn't sign your terms and conditions. So if you're a stickler for the terms and conditions and you're a stickler for all these other things, why the box?
Maybe because in a way, right, even though Parker was innocent, he was still part of it. He was the influencer. He was the one in front of the camera.
Yeah,
he was the one being followed.
Considering how much they protected him, that again, that's my stickler point, because to be honest, there's not a lot of bad here. So for me to really have to focus on one itty bitty little 2-minute section should tell you something.
Oh, I thought you had another bad.
Well, I mean, it's predictable. Peach not signing the terms and conditions of the contest. I leaned over to you and I went, he ain't gonna die.
Yes.
But the thing is that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it was a campy film. It's a bad in the sense of there were some spots that were predictable, but in the same token, it didn't take me out of the film. It's like I'm literally grasping at straws to put in the bad.
Right. I mean, for me, I think the fact that everything was, almost right there on the surface is almost like a parallel to the fact that, social media can be superficial.
Yeah.
So I guess we can go into the cute then, huh?
Yes, please.
Okay.
See, not a lot of bad.
This is actually your cute.
Oh, I know. So Shaylin telling Sophia that calling it the Social Mansion was a bit on the nose. And Sophia replies with this, and I had to actually pause it and put captions on. Forgive me, I thought it might be fun to have a ship name. And I couldn't stop laughing at that because considering their characters are part of Windock, Way Hot, Why Not? I couldn't stop laughing. It was such a cute touch, almost like an homage to the Winona Earp fans, and I loved it.
Yeah. For me, I loved at the end, like when Sophia was starting to lose her crap, right? Because Peach didn't sign the contract. Shaylin tells Sophia, "Don't glitch."
That's going to be my new thing to you. Like you should say that to me when I'm overwhelmed of like all the work and editing I'm doing.
Don't glitch.
Don't glitch.
You'll be fine. Just don't glitch.
Don't glitch. That made, I was giggling at that. There's a lot of funny bits here.
Of course.
To be frank, I think we could talk about this film for quite some time. There's a lot in it that's funny, that's cute, there's a lot
of one-liners.
The one-liners are great. It really is very, very creative, enjoyable, fun. And did I mention it's on a free streamer?
Yeah, you don't need to have an account even. You can just like go on the website, which is what I did because I wanted to double check a few things, and I could just search for Clickbait Unfollowed, and there it was.
Yep.
Okay, so any more cute?
Or good? Or randomness? No. I think we really need to cover it now.
All right. So that will be our discussion of Clickbait Unfollowed. So now it is time for our Forever Fangirls rating. Drum roll, please. We rate Clickbait Unfollowed 5 stars.
Yay! Is that like our first 5 stars?
In a while, I think, yes.
Yeah.
And we both agree on this rating.
So can it develop legs to success? Again, no clue what a flop or not is for a streaming platform. We've mentioned this before. But that being said, I do think Melanie Scrofano and Catherine Burrell make an excellent creative team. And I think we would both be very, very interested in seeing what these two bring about in the future.
For sure.
So finally, my overall thoughts on Clickbait Unfollowed is that it really is a great, campy horror film with significant social commentary buried underneath it. I would say it is worthy of a watch or several to catch what you might have missed between the one-liners, little snippets, undertones, props in the background, etc. But on a serious note, the film lays out the seriousness of companies creating social media platforms being more addictive than the last one. They want you to stay on their platforms. And maybe legislation could change that, but I really don't know. It is a rather serious issue, and I hope that people know there are various avenues for professional help if they're struggling. You're beautiful exactly as you are, no matter how many friends, followers, likes, or subscriptions you have.
And for me, it was good to see Melanie Scrofano and Kat Burrell on the small screen again, even though, as I mentioned, I had a visceral reaction to that mask Kat Burrell was wearing. We discussed that there were a lot of underlying themes, and I think the biggest one that got to me was the fact that Julie used her child to get what she wanted. And I know that this is nothing new, but it did bring to the forefront that it's important to let kids be kids. We need to have them enjoy life in a less stressful way.
They need to enjoy their innocence while they have it.
Exactly. Social media platforms are a tool. They're not the foundation for your life. And as Kimmy alluded to already, no one has the right to validate your personal worth.
Damn right. So that is going to be our show for today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into our review of Clickbait Unfollowed. If you'd like to reach out to us here at Forever Fangirls Podcast, we have several ways you can do that. You can go to our website at foreverfangirls.com and find links to our Discord, social media, and a contact forum, as well as easy access to subscriptions and past episodes.
So until next time, stay safe, be kind, and remember, go and find your light because you matter. And that certainly is more than enough.